What is going on, everyone? I wanted to make a video on exactly how to get started on your building upgrades, especially as a beginner. I think this is something that's fairly intimidating when you're first starting out. So I want to give you a very easy to understand strategy that's going to help you further level up faster and get you competing against those guys at the top of your server. So what this strategy is what we call the minimum maximum strategy. This is a strategy I've seen with a bunch of other YouTubers that have been utilizing this. Shout out to Echo Gaming. He's been a great source of knowledge for me. I would be sure to check out his channel and a lot of the information he has. Unfortunately, it has been a couple years since he has made Infinity Kingdom content, and I wanted to go back and revisit these concepts and some of these topics so you guys are getting updated knowledge and go a little deeper into some of these things. So what is the minimum maximum upgrade strategy? Well, in very simple terms, this means you're upgrading the maximum time frame for, in my instance, the castle at 1 day and 6 hours, and the minimum time frame, which in many cases is going to be your resource buildings like smelteries, dwellings, and so on and so forth. Now, the exceptions to this is obviously there are going to be instances where you cannot upgrade your castle because you have to upgrade other things. So obviously be upgrading those things if you can't be upgrading your castle. The other exception to this, I'd say especially as a beginner, is when you're first starting out, these resource buildings are not going to be nearly as important to upgrade when it comes to your resource management and actually needing those resources. Right now, I have so many resources stacked up, and I also have resource items, and realistically don't need to be putting too much time into things like the smelteries, the hospital, so on and so forth. So I'd at least get them, to a point where with your alliance, it's pretty much maxing out, and it's pretty easy to upgrade these. Right now, that's around level 13 for me because we can have around 12 to 13 alliance members help with it. So it's almost pretty much instant when my alliance members are active. So if you are going to be going to bed or taking a break or have a long gap in time, that's another exception in the building upgrades. That's when the min-max is not going to be as important, and you want to be upgrading some other buildings like the warehouse, your barracks, as well as your academy, tower of knowledge, and things like the forge, the wishing fountain, your wall, and your training grounds. These are going to be very vital buildings. So let's hop into the buildings. We're going to go over every single building and breaking down exactly what you need to be doing and giving you tips for every single building in the game. These are going to include a couple buildings that Echo Gaming did not go over as well. So let's start left to right, and then we're going to work our way all the way down to the harbor for the very end. Starting at the very top, our Trove. This is a great place to allow your dragons to upgrade. You can get these chests by attacking bosses, gnome bosses, on the main map here. Now, each gnome boss has particular drops. The Death Stinger is going to drop these dragon chests that are going to be for your water dragon. And then we have our Giant Breaker that's going to be dropping the lightning. Lava Lurker that's going to be dropping your fire. And Metallic Fortress that is going to be dropping your earth. Now, you can fight these things. Just a quick tip here for you. You can attack these things multiple times. So if you can't quite kill a level 3 off of one battle, you can probably kill it off of 2 or 3. Now, if it's taking you more than that, it's probably going to be a waste of your ability powers, and I wouldn't go beyond that. But if you can kill these things within 1 to 2 attacks, definitely go for that, especially because those higher level chests are going to earn you more of those dragon crystals that you need to use to upgrade. And we'll get that, we'll get to that a little further in this video. So hopping back in here, that's how you're going to get those chests. You always want to be at least researching one of these chests and maximizing that. So within 17 minutes, I'm going to need to go and get another chest. Keep that in mind. You always want to make sure that you are prepping and make sure you have enough ability power to go and get another one of these chests. A safe way of doing that is making sure this just stays filled. And if you have an open slot, going and grabbing a chest while you have that ability power. Next up, we have our academy. Early on, there are two main things in the academy that should be researched. I'm going to probably make another video that goes a lot more in depth into the academy, but just as a reference point, when it comes to production, this speedy construction is going to be very important for leveling up your buildings faster, which is ultimately going to help you level up your Immortals, which is going to be the biggest source of power. So keep this in mind. You know, speedy construction is going to be important up to that academy level 19, and then you can start focusing on some other things, like when you have resource issues, you can start focusing on that. Gold piles, dwelling extension, things like this is going to be fantastic, especially when you start running low on gold and when you need more of that gold to upgrade your dragons and other aspects. The other important thing that I encourage you to speed up and rush is Veteran. This gives you a combat EXP earned bonus for your Immortals, which allows them to level up faster and ultimately gives you that nice extra power boost early game. You always want to be researching something here though, so if you have both of those maxed out, production I'm fine on right now, so typically I'm going into Immortal and upgrading some of these while I'm online. Of course, going for those higher, longer time frames if I'm going to bed or have a decent amount of time between my next session of the game. Moving on to the castle, one of the most important aspects of this game. It is the heart of your city, and even though it doesn't seem to be something you need to be in tune with early on, as you upgrade this, you are going to unlock these slots where you can assign treasurers, you can assign commanders, and you can assign scholars. This is going to give you a massive bonus when it comes to assigning things like aptitude bonus effect, right? So this is going to give you, in this sense, a production bonus, in this sense, a training speed bonus, and over here, technology, we haven't unlocked that yet, but obviously a technology research bonus. So that is going to be very important for the castle. Don't neglect that. Make sure you're constantly checking back there to make sure that you have people in there that are going to be the most effective. Typically with this, the most effective person is going to be right at the top here. Most of these people are not going to be as effective here, but military, it looks like it's pretty even, but Yoshitsune, oh man, I'm butchering that name. Yoshitsune is going to be the best for that. Coming into Tower of Knowledge, this is also a great place to get some bonuses. These are all kinds of different abilities that you can apply to your Immortals, and obviously having a higher level Tower of Knowledge is going to get you access to upgrading these. Those are upgraded with what are called Essence, I believe, this purple gem looking thing. And you want to use those effectively because you can also use those in the market to further gain power for your Immortal by getting those Immortal fragments. So definitely be careful when it comes to spending these essence. You want to be very lenient with those. We'll go a little more in depth on this Tower of Knowledge and some suggestions I have for you here, but ultimately I think it's beneficial to at least have a couple abilities to work with and apply those to your Immortals. moving into the Dragon Cove. This is a fantastic area that allows you to upgrade your dragons, and of course, who doesn't love dragons? This is the coolest part of the game, in my opinion. Very subjective. I've always loved dragons, wanted a pet dragon for the longest time, and I'm still pretty adamant about that, okay? I want a pet dragon. If someone can make that happen, you let me know. Anyway, let's get into this. The biggest thing here is you want to be, just like you upgrade a 1 formation to have the highest attack. We're going to go into that a little further later in this video. You want to be upgrading the dragon that's affiliated with that formation. So mine is going to be a water formation and the water dragon that we're going to be upgrading as much as we possibly can. Right now we are limited on the water dragon crystals, so this is the important part of continuously running the purifying in the Trove to make sure that you don't run into this bottleneck. So continue to do that. If you do run into that bottleneck, then that's an appropriate time to be upgrading another dragon. You never want to be wasting time here, and these dragon upgrades take a long time. Just to the level 5 right now, it's taking over 6 hours, right? So keep those dragons training. We want these guys to be the badass dragons that they are. Just look at them. They're so cute too when they're babies. I wish you could go back and just look at them when they were babies. Oh, you can. Oh, yes, yes. Oh, okay. I just discovered something cool. But anyway, let's move on to the next building. We're going to head over to the training grounds here. Now, not too many secrets here. This is pretty self-explanatory, but one thing that I want to mention, and this is some secret sauce, if you were maxed out on your troops, the only reason you want to dismantle troops is to then be able to continue training troops for your daily goals and for your growth goals. There are goals around training troops, and that definitely is worth dismantling some troops here and there, so you can continue to upgrade those troops and train those troops, because that ultimately gets you rewards. So keep that going. That's going to be important for you. But outside of that, training grounds is pretty self-explanatory. The higher the level you go, the more capacity it has. But buildings really aren't going to be your main source of power, so I wouldn't worry too much about which building you need to upgrade for the most power, because your Immortals are going to be your main source of power. Next building we're going to get into is the Mysterium, and this is where I'm going to briefly start talking about why that 1 formation is important to have and important to build up. You really want to put as many of your resources into 1 formation, and Mysterium is a reason for that. Now, Mysterium, the idea is you have floors 1 through 2 through 3, and you want to work your way through a bunch of these different guards, right? So basic concept here is you want to be killing a guard, and then this is where I made mistakes because I didn't constantly upgrade 1 formation early on. I'm not getting that advantage right now. Constantly upgrading that 1 formation would have allowed me to push through these guards here to the Mysterium treasure, the Spring of Life, where I could resurrect one of my Immortals, and then ultimately to one of these healing amulets that's going to allow me to heal. So that's pretty much the concept of this. You want to go the route that's going to get you the most of those healing amulets. I typically like to go over through this way up into here, killing this guard, because that also allows you to get all of these treasures as well, possibly. So you want to maximize the amount of treasure you can get and continue to move through this floor and get all the way through this every single day if you can. This one is going to reset after a day and 20 hours, so I need to continue upgrading some Immortals for that next time that the Mysterium resets. You can also reset it right up here as well, which is pretty nice, pretty convenient. Moving on to the Wishing Fountain. This is a fantastic area to gain some resources if this becomes a dilemma with you. And something that a lot of people miss is you can click this chest in the middle, and that also gets you some claimable upgrades there as well. You have 13 free attempts, and then ultimately, if you do want to go after these speed ups, I genuinely don't think they're really worth going after and using gems for. You only have 60 attempts remaining each day, and to go through 60 attempts of 5 gems is quite a lot. Now, if you're struggling with resources and you need this, then possibly this is going to make sense for you. Moving on to the markets. This is a fantastic use of those essence, right? Now, typically, I'm only using essence on dragon crystals or immortals, and specifically elite immortals. We don't want to really use these on epics because the idea is we want to be focusing on that end game. And most of the time, your end game is going to be a formation of all elites. So focus on that. Focus on buying out these immortals. I typically would only use the purple essence versus the gems, but if it's something that's really something you want to be going after as far as an elite immortal, then there's the exception there. But this 500 gems for an epic just is a waste of gems. Moving on, we're going to skip over to the barracks here. Obviously, always have your troops training. This is going to be very important. And try to keep these levels as even as possible. Right now, I haven't been doing that good of a job with that. But this is just because I've been upgrading the things as that minimum maximum upgrade needed, right? Now, I'm probably going to come back at some point and upgrade these shieldman barracks, the cavalry barracks, and the spearman barracks, especially during their power spikes, which are going to be level 10, level 20, level 30, and level 40, where you unlock a new troop type. So keep that in mind. That's going to be very important for you to do that. Moving on, we have the Chronicle place. This is something a lot of people look over, and it's pretty much an area where you can claim a lot of gems. This is fantastic, and typically happens I believe each season. So you want to be taking advantage of this before it expires, and then going back and seeing if there's any other objectives you can go after. So members of Alliance which occupy 0, 1, or more cities with starting levels of level 1 or higher will receive extra rewards. I don't think I reached this in time, as this event ended on the 11th. So this is very important to go and check this and make sure that first, you typically need to be a part of an active alliance to actually achieve these things. And second, make sure that you are participating and doing the things you need to be doing in order to get those achievements. So right here, members of the first 2 of 7 alliances to reach level 4 will receive rewards. This is going to be important. And then member of alliances who complete the primary objectives and have 90 and 90 or more members will obtain extra rewards. This is also going to be important. Secondary objectives, so on and so forth. So make sure that you're checking this and make sure you're being an active part of your alliance, because that not only benefits your alliance, that benefits you as well. Now we're going to check out the Hall of Immortals, one of the most important aspects of this game, upgrading your Immortals. Now, free summons on the normal side, you get 5 free summons each day, and those are refreshed as you go through the day. So make sure you use those 5 free attempts each day, and then you have a free attempt on the other side here on the advanced side as well. Make sure you're taking advantage of that. Now, something that's really important about this is you don't want to be using those single advanced summoning crystals. You want to be using this 10% off 9 crystals right here. The reason for that, I think, is pretty obvious. If you use 9 crystals, you get 10 unlocks for that. So that's going to be really important moving forward here. Is you want to make sure you're taking advantage of that 10% off every single time, because even after 2 or 3 summons, that adds up. And these crystals are not easy to get. So make sure you're taking advantage of that 10% off. Never just be doing that one, even if you're desperate. It's like gambling at that point, okay? Let's take advantage and let's mess with the house a little bit and use that 9 for that 10% off. Cool. Moving down, we're going down one layer here to the hospital. The hospital, there's not really too much to this. Constantly be healing if you have troops that need to be healed. This is relatively easy. And then typically the only time I'm using speed ups is A, if I really need troops, or B, if I'm being attacked and if I'm heavily in PvP, right? So that's something to keep in mind with the hospital, but really not too much there. The arena, this is a very important area. This is something that even if you don't have the power, which I'm at 20,000 right now, so I'm not having this issue. If you don't have the power to go up against even this lowest level right over here, which is pretty easy for me right now, but there will be some instances where that power exceeds yours. In some instances, you can actually win against higher powers, but you also want to utilize a ticket to do so because these tickets do not stack, right? You only get 5 per day, so you want to use up all 5 per day, even if that means going up against someone that isn't going to be as good for you. So we're going to just challenge this really quick to show you a little bit about that. You get some rewards. It's good for you. And even possibly on this next one, I might have... Now, these tiers have been really weird, putting me up against 9,000. But ultimately, continuously using those tickets are going to benefit you, even if you can't fight and win against that person. There's really no downside to losing on this, but there's a lot of upside to getting past that loss to go and win against somebody else. So in this instance, that bottom person even dropped in level, but I'm still going to be able to go after this middle person. It's very rare that you can go up against this last person. That's probably when you get into some higher tiers, you'll be able to go up against this higher person. And as when you're first starting out, you can also go up against that high person. Moving on, this is something that I like to mention right here is this Government House and Wisdom Palace. This is a really interesting area. You can actually see the mayors of towns. Now, right now, we're early in the season, so there is no king right now. But one of our, I thought he was, our alliance does have a mayor, which is Black Cat. And then we also have a mayor here. So we have a few different mayors at some of these cities that we've taken over, which is really cool. This is kind of a cool, neat way of seeing which players are taking cities and players that you may have to watch out for. The other aspect is going to be the Wisdom Palace. This is your preliminary trials. I have gone over this one before, but just for reference, your preliminary trials are pretty easy. I have a video that I'm going to link up above here, and down in the description as well, that shows you exactly how to pass this with 10 out of 10 correct. So make sure to check that out and pass these preliminary trials because you do get some really great rewards for that. Moving on, we have the Forge, which really I don't see as valuable right now early game because, as I've said in the past, not really having issues with resources like gold just yet, but I can see this being useful later on to transmute something that you have access excess of to further your builds and things like that, or further your dragons in that sense because you're getting gold for other resources. Alchemy Lab, this is going to be a very important building. First off, because of the Immortal Dismantle, any Immortal fragments that you're not utilizing, you can actually dismantle to gain those essence that then you can spend on Immortals that you are using. The other very important aspect of the Alchemy Lab is your Immortal Reborn. And this is where I'm going to kind of go into why it's important to focus on one formation first and maximize that. With one formation, if you're putting all of your resources into that and increasing that power, you're going to be able to fight higher level gnomes, higher level gnome bosses, and gain more EXP for that. And then once you have one of those immortals maxed out, you can actually get them to go through this reborn process, which gives you all of the resources back, including that EXP. So then you can go and utilize that immortal to go and upgrade your other immortals on your second, third, and fourth formation after you've pulled him back up to level 39 is typically where you want to bring it back up to. Once he's at level 39, then he's going to go and make that, I think it's 4.4 million experience back to get to level 40, and you can continuously rebirth that immortal and put that EXP into others, because that formation is capable of making the most experience. So really lucrative way, not going to be as important early game, but you still want to be working towards that. And if you've made mistakes of increasing, other immortals power, you can go back and you can rebirth those like I've done in the beginning. I made a couple mistakes early on and was putting levels into immortals that shouldn't need it or don't deserve it. So yeah, keep that in mind. The other thing is equipment decomposition, which it's kind of funny that it's called equipment decomposition and it's still as a dismantle button over here. But this is another great way to gain those dark green crystals that you want to utilize in upgrading equipment and other things, right? So keep this in mind. This is a great way to use unnecessary equipment or unused equipment. Typically, I only want to be applying equipment to my top formation. Otherwise, my second and third formation, it doesn't necessarily need it. In most instances, they're either farming or constructing. So very rarely use that second and third formation to actually fight. So in that sense, I'd rather put their equipment into dismantling or decomposing and put that back into my top formation immortals to then increase their power so they can go after more and more EXP and level up faster. The warehouse. The warehouse is pretty interesting. This is how you protect your resources. So resources under protection cannot be plundered by enemies. Right now it says it's at 0, which I'm not understanding. I think I've kind of glitched this part of the game out somehow. But if you go to your details here, it'll show you your max storage and then max protection, which is going to be 90,000. And that'll give you an idea of how many resources are protected and can't be taken from you. And then coming down to the harbor, this is a really cool area where you can take advantage of a bunch of rewards such as speed ups, as well as immortal fragments and resources. So definitely be claiming this. I typically like to claim this when I first get back online and before I leave and get offline. That way it can take advantage, gets the maximum amount, and while you're online, it's actually going up as well. Another thing that's important for this is keeping the most amount of immortals in here as you can, epic and elites. This is also a benefit of not putting all of your formations and trying to grow all of those out, is you can utilize those extra immortals in the dispatch here, which is ultimately going to get you better rewards, better resources. Also, pay attention to the week's designated immortals. This also gives you another nice bonus for claiming better rewards as your ship goes out. Now, to level up your ship, you're simply having to claim this. As you claim, your ship levels up, and so on and so forth. The wall is also going to be another important aspect of this game. Now, in most instances, you're not going to be able to upgrade your castle without upgrading your wall, so it's kind of forced that you continue to upgrade this. A couple things I want to go over in here is fortifications. Keeping this maxed out is going to be very important. Typically, I like to have an even amount of all of the fortifications here, but nothing too important here. And then also garrison. This is something that a lot of people miss. If you're being attacked, then this is a great area to take advantage of at least slowing that attack down, at least giving your troops some experience and getting them battle hardened and putting them into some battles. And it just preventing some damage, right? You can garrison formation there, which typically you want that to be your top formation. Outside of that, the resource buildings are pretty self-explanatory. I think everyone understands those. And then as we unlock buildings further on in this game, I'm going to go over those. But one last thing I want to mention is if you're having any issues with this game or anything, I absolutely love the way they have built the support. A lot of people are curious as to what this what this what's the word I'm looking for? What this thing in the middle of your nice little river pond dam thing, you know, this dam, not the other dam. What this is. If you click on it, it's actually going to take you to this really cool area that shows you off the entire team. And I just think this is one of the cooler aspects of this game, is you can see all the amazing people working on this game, everything from the ideology stage to the C++ and the development side to the art and the music, one of my favorite areas, to really see exactly who all is involved in this. And you can tell, because of how well this game has been developed, that there are a lot of people involved in this, and it kind of lets you understand, you know, some really cool things. But the other cool aspect of this is the message board. So this is where you can actually type in messages to the team and they get these messages, which is really cool. I think this is a neat way of interacting with the team and saying, hey, I love what you're doing, or hey, I found this bug. It would be awesome if you can help us out with this. One of those things right here, you can see I've posted, I've heard this too. It's that whooshing sound. It's just a really obnoxious whooshing sound that has been annoying a lot of people in this main area. So typically I'm just turning off the volume at this point. But that is pretty much it. If you guys have any questions or have any tips that I may have missed, go and leave it down in the comments below. Otherwise, let me know if you liked this video. Those likes, those comments, they go a long way for me, and I always appreciate that. But hopefully this helped you guys out in one way or another. And if it did, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for upcoming videos that are going to go more in depth into things like your Immortals, building that out, and continuing to grow in Infinity Kingdom. With all that being said, you'll have a great rest of your day, and happy Easter. Peace.